Alright, so today's video we're watching a Plat 5 DPS on PC, and we get to see one of our, we call it the content map, Rialto. I just feel like a lot of things happen on Rialto. You're also going to see them play Widow, Sombra, Venture, Reaper, Echo. Wow, that is a wide variety of heroes and hero pool playstyles. My tank began to complain and said, where are the DPS? I didn't think much of it and continued playing until the round ended. During the transition, my tank started to say that I had really little damage and that I suck. Just a side note here before I continue on here. Understand that your Sombra is going to be having way less damage than you will expect. And on top of that, it doesn't mean they're not getting any value. A lot of the times the Sombra's getting a ton of value. At first, I was going to type something back, but just to my surprise, the enemy team began to defend me, saying that I was actually doing a pretty good job of picking them off and that our tank was the problem. Wow, that was a reverse Uno card. When it was my team's turn to defend, I swapped to Venture. There were times where I do admit I was playing pretty aggressively to the point our Lifeweaver would pull me back when my HP was too low, which isn't actually, that's okay. I feel like I could have done more for my team, but didn't exactly know what. Any pointers would be really appreciated. Hope you enjoy. All right, let's see. Were they doing absolutely nothing? Was the tank correct that they suck? Was the other team correct that it actually was their own tank sucking? Who knows? Let's find out. This is an interesting start. By the way, in that situation, don't be afraid to like do a little bit more of just like left click damage on them. I think a part of like the problem that you were running into right there was that like you kind of gave up probably 15% ult charge. Good backline pressure, wonderful job. Good play. And see, this is what I mean about the downtime. Like, there's gonna be a time where like you're out of the fight as Sombra. This is why like you have to understand that like a lot of Sombras are not gonna do like this crazy amount of damage that you expect when you look at it. And that's why like you hear me talk about it sometimes when I'm talking to chat, how I do mention that, like, I always talk about how stats don't necessarily, like, paint the full picture for your team, right? Because, like, I could have 25,000 damage as Soldier 76, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm giving my team full value. It could just mean I'm feeding them ult charge and I'm making my, like, numbers look good. Also, so far, I think you've been playing Sombra fairly well. Obviously, they might get you there. Oh, nice job. So, like, them getting mad at you and, like, this is why they look at your damage numbers and go, oh, why are you what are you doing? It's like, well, the Sombra can't be in the team fight. So, like, if people are so honed in on damage numbers sometimes, like, it doesn't... I just dropped my phone. That was nice. Yeah. What rank is this? Plat? I don't remember. Plat? I think Plat? Let me give you an example of damage numbers here, where sometimes they can be a little bit more flawed than like what you expect to see. So let's say that you're in a game and they have a Reinhardt in the other team who just sits there and plays a very, very like passive play style, and they hold their shield up. But then your team has a Roadhog, and then they farm your Roadhog the whole time, and then your team is trying to break through a Rein shield. The other team's DPS has 10,000 more damage, but that's because they're farming the Roadhog, right? Does that necessarily mean that the other teammates are playing bad? No, it just means that one team has a shield and one team doesn't. I'd say so far, the Sombra play hasn't been too bad. A couple moments here and there, but like, movement's been good. The virus lead-offs have been really good. Pressure on their backline's been good. Like, your tank saying that the DPS are doing nothing, I think is an incorrect statement. And I can see why the other team was saying, like, what are you talking about? Because the other team has been certainly feeling the pressure of you just being in their backline. So... Now, I could sit there and say go for map control, stop shooting at the Lifeweaver tree because you already got the point, but I'll be honest with you, I'd probably do the same thing. It's just fun to hit buttons and hear the sound. This is your timing. EMP this in 3, 2, 1, now. Perfect timing. That is exactly the way you want to EMP that. I'll explain why. Win or lose here, you gave your teammates opportunity to follow up and your teammates had good map control. I think that was a great EMP. I was totally okay with that. What actually should have happened there is your Orisa should have went in aggressively off the EMP, but they just kind of stood there a little. They didn't stay there, but they didn't like get too aggro and follow up on that. So what I do is when my teammate EMPs, I all in as like a tank because like I can usually just get 2 or 3 limbs. And at the very worst, you can force out ultimates, and exactly you force out ult. So, what is this Sombra skin? Is this like the second version of like the Demon Hunter one or whatever it was? They had one that was in Overwatch 1, and I think they had one they created in Overwatch 2. I don't know which one it is. I don't play enough Sombra to know. This is the first one? Okay. It's the Diablo skin, so is this the second one? I don't know. I thought there was 2 of them, like that were very similar. Like I could be wrong. Either way, it's one of those. This is the first one. Okay. So this is the first one. All right. And then there's the second one they also have. That's very similar.
I'm moving the payload, and feel free to join me. I see your design at work.
That's a little bit on you there, but like I get it. I felt like you got impatient finally, and when that happens, like plays like that will happen. I don't mind the aggression. I just think like you were doing a good job of not overcommitting. I felt like that was one situation where you overcommitted a little bit. Watch out. I also think like competitive points would be a good Twitch drop at one point. You know what I mean? Like competitive points. Like, not like a full amount, but like enough to... Okay, yeah, you got hacked again. I mean, now you're being a little bit too aggro. And this is like the... Don't be surprised that you're struggling here on Sombra, because getting behind them and then setting up a play can be difficult, especially if your team isn't giving you that same type of, like, space creation. So, like, I think what needs to happen now is you have the ultimates to go win this team fight. I think, like, as long as you get your teammates to understand you're going to go for an EMP, you should win this. Try to get behind them again, though, to scout, because you can just, like, sit there and scout where they're at. It becomes a lot easier to get a better EMP. Is there a tank AFK in spawn? They were? Okay. Yeah, this is okay. I saw you EMP that, by the way. I went off your screen. You're being too impatient. You notice how like your teammates are still far behind and still getting in there? Until your team's really engaged that, trying to force an EMP by just using an EMP I might do the same thing. Like if I'm getting impatient also a lot of the time, like I'll be like, okay, I gotta go make a play. At this point, your team hasn't had an opportunity to even like get their team out of position. So when you EMP this, they can either cleanse it, right? Or even when they're EMP'd, which they are, look at what they have now follow-up wise. Look where your teammates are at. Do you see what I'm saying? Like look at where your team's at. There's just 0 follow-up, which is why like patience becomes so important here on Sombra. Wait a second, get your teammate in a spot where like a follow-up here makes sense, but you weren't sitting there in a situation that would allow for good follow-up. You played really well on the first and second point because you were doing that. I don't know if it was on purpose, but I want to see you get a little bit more patient if you're on Sombra going into third point. There you go. Ooh. Good job. Mechanically, by the way, your aim and your viruses have been solid. I think, like, mechanic-wise, I'm not too worried about that. I think the only, like, real, like, misplay I've seen you make so far outside of has been your impatience on third point. And that is something that's easily fixable. Of, like, you see that, right? You just see that. Like you see that now, and if you watch this back, you'll be like, oh, you're right. I was trying to do too much. And then it's this simple adjustment is like just chilling and realizing that like it's okay to be a little bit patient sometimes when you have to make a play. And sometimes it's hard to do that, right? Even I run into that impatience issue. Actually, as I was doing the climb to top 500 on support, which that was a fun climb. I started to get a little bit impatient with my support ultimates, where like I felt like I had to use them, so I would try to use them too aggressively. When in reality, I'm like, wait a second, I need to take a step back on these like this ultimate and realize that it's okay for me to have beat for 3 rounds in a row if my teammates just aren't willing to be it. Because like if I use beat to aggress, by the time I get there, we don't have any survivability, and they can just use any counter. So either way, my point is it's good to be patient sometimes, and here is that like you need that patience. Big slam. Just to kind of go back on this. This is where you said your tank was saying, "Oh, my DPS aren't doing anything. Oh, look at my Sombra's damage, etc." You played that half fine, in my opinion. In my opinion, I think you played that just fine. All right, anyway, we'll see how you are on Venture now. You did say on Venture you felt like you played a little bit too aggressive. So we'll see. Keep in mind, you mentioned, "Oh, my Lifeweaver had to pull me away." That's fine. Lifeweaver's kit is designed around that, and honestly, if your Lifeweaver is using the ability to pull their Venture back after their Venture overextends, that also sounds like you have a good synergy right there. Lifeweaver allows for plays like that. You're actually enabling Lifeweaver's kit. So if you feel like you're getting pulled out of the team fights, sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I'm not saying that if you have a life weaver, you should go and hard feed on any hero, but like, it's okay if occasionally on your cooldown rotation, you have your life weaver like pulling you back. Like, that is okay. All right, you have the right idea of being on a flank. You could have been on even a more aggressive flank. Nice play here. Good job. I'm gonna be real with y'all, chat. Venture's really good. And I'm not saying Venture's like meta, like top tier, but I am telling you, I am playing against more and more Ventures, and people are getting so good with them. I got so good with them, like to the point where like I can't even peel. You know what? We needed somebody to fall off the map at the bridge. You did it. Thank you so much. I know a lot of chat was waiting for that moment, so thank you. My major issue with Venture, and especially as a tank player, it's really hard to be able to peel for them. It becomes really hard to peel for them. Like, really hard. So, like, if a Venture is in my backline just dominating, there's not many tank heroes I can go to help against that, except maybe Zarya. But, like being forced to play Zarya at that point sometimes isn't ideal because of the comp they're running, so it's just like, yeah. Like, right there, that's fine. Like, them pulling you there is fine. If you're worried about that type of situation right there, that is an okay pull by your life weaver and an okay aggressive play by you, in my opinion. Because now you can do that same rotation again in that same play. I have a feeling that if I was playing Venture against you, that would be the most frustrating experience. You're playing the... Remember, the bubble will block that, so you gotta be careful on that one. Your ultimate was a little bit off there. Like, at that point, stop trying to look for value on the Winston and look for value elsewhere. Wait for it. Uh-oh. Yeah. I mean, those are... That was a little bit too aggro, but at the same time, like, the life weaver pull also makes sense there. Like, it's... I'm still okay with that. I like that you're being proactive as Venture. Like, I personally like that you're being proactive in that situation. Also, Venture's ultimate's actually really good. When I first played Venture, I was like, this ultimate's not that good. As I've been playing more, Ventures have been, like, dominating with that ultimate because, like, they're just realizing it's unpeelable outside of a shield. Like, at the very least, you get out some of the most, like, frustrating cooldowns to go against, and, like, it does a lot of damage. Scorponic, thanks for the 46 months to feature friend. Thank you, appreciate it. Try not to peel for their tank. Just go to their backline and pressure them. You just don't try to peel for the tank. Go for their backline, and you'd be surprised of how much you'll get a limbs there. Because no one can actually peel for you or help you at that point either, right? So, like, you're going to be making this, like, really cool play. So trade the backline there. Stop trying to, like, peel for their tank. Yeah, exactly. You can literally, like, find a squishy on their team, and they'll just fall over. Just like that. Well, that's not good, Zach on that one. Ooh. You said you felt like you played too aggressive at some point. I feel like you're playing too passive now. Like, as Venture, one of the most, like, the strengths of this hero is being able to go for that backline pressure, and you're just not. You're just shooting at the tank. I really want you to start to look to be a little bit more aggressive. It's similar to how you play Sombra, right? End up in their backline, set up for really good flanks. The moment they engage, you start to engage in, and next thing you know, you're getting 2 to 3 limbs per team fight, and the other team's frustrated, and now they're going, what the heck is going on, right? So I do want you to try to find a little bit more value in what you're doing on Venture, because, like, right now you're playing Venture how you would, like, kind of play Cassidy, and you don't want to do that.
Stop the payload.
On to Reaper, which Reaper would technically fit your playstyle more now. I do want to point out, Reaper is not the same tank buster that you've seen the last few seasons for people who, like, go Reaper as, like, a pick. You're going to find that Winston actually isn't as bad against Reaper anymore. That goes for, like, any of, like, those heroes. Like, Diva, like, struggles against Winston now. Even more so. So, I just want you to be wary of that sometimes. If there's a tank hero that, like Winston, you notice how you just did all that damage you just did to Winston? With your teammate also shooting the Winston, I think Winston got to about 40% HP. To give you an idea. So, Reaper is a little bit worse now against that type of comp, so just kind of getting you in that mindset of, like, Reaper isn't necessarily a bad pick in some situations, but like definitely recognize that like when you're going against a Winston, it takes a lot more to grind them down at the beginning. Now you'll shred them. Okay, so you notice how you were shredding the Winston there when they didn't have the armor at the beginning? No. And then, of course, they ult. This could be a good ult by you, actually. You know, I got to admit sometimes, and as I've been doing the top 500 DPS grind, one of the most frustrating things, I think, and this is I'm so used to it on tank, though, too, is when you go to make a play, everything is set up, and then you get randomly CC. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like a targeted CC. It's like their Yari hits a button randomly, and then it boops you like 3 feet to where you can't use your ultimate anymore. Yeah. Just a little side note here. Don't use your Reaper cooldown like that randomly. Like, if you didn't notice there, you just kind of randomly used your ability. I want you to get a little bit better at not doing that. I feel like you're just using your shift, and you're gonna wish you had that shift. If that doesn't describe Reaper ult and playing against a Sojourn, I don't know what does. You got an Elim, though. The Elim was good. It's going to win the team fight, but damn. That Reaper ult sometimes. You know, I have a question for you after this team fight. Also, don't you love the better pulse bomb right there? Do you notice how on Reaper you're going to their backline? Why weren't you doing that on Venture? Because if you did that on Venture, you would have gotten way more value, but for some reason on Reaper, you just teleport in and then go for their backline. If you did that on Venture, I think you have a much better go with things, right? But on Reaper, you're like, I'm gonna go into their backline. I'm gonna use all my cooldowns. On Venture, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna sit here and shoot at the tank on the stairs and get AoE down. See the difference there? Okay, what hero are you back on now? Echo? This feels like you're trying to counter the other Echo. I like Echo as a hero. I'm just trying to figure out what your vision of going Echo was. I think you and the other DPS have just swapped at each other and gone the same heroes. I do it all the time, so I get it. That's what it feels like. Yeah, that was my concern. It's like you're about to retake in a really close range situation, and one of the spots where Echo can struggle. Echo is good close range, right? But Echo is not good when you're confined into that close range. So like as Echo, you want to go in and make a play, but like you don't want to be in a spot like that where like you're out of position and like they can kind of just isolate you down. That's why I was a little bit confused by like your swap there. Try to find a way to stay on maybe even Reaper there, you know, or even, you know, a hero that has a bit more survivability. I think will end up in better results for you. So tough game, but I think like overall there was a lot you could like just learn from that game in general on like your hero selection, how you play. But like mechanically, I felt like your mechanics were good. I feel like it was just how you played the heroes. You played Reaper how you wanted to play Venture. You played Venture how you want to play Reaper. The way that you play those heroes was a little bit off, but like it's very fixable. And I felt like your Sombra was good. And then like back to the initial thing where your tank said your DPS were sucking and blaming you. No, that's not the case. I felt like you had a good game. I felt like that was just a good game of Overwatch that the other team in the end had one better set of ultimates, and that was the make or break. Sometimes the other team just has a better play in the end, and then you lose the game, but it doesn't mean it was a bad game or anybody was playing terrible. It just means they had one better play. But yeah, the tank blaming you, that ain't on you. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to all 3 YouTubes if you haven't, leave a comment, all of that helps. If you want to submit your own Spectating, if you look in the description, you'll see my Discord. That is where you can submit pretty much any of the stuff that we do. And outside of that, we also record these live on stream, so make sure to stop by if you haven't. You can see the Twitch chat right below the webcam. With that being said, I hope you have an amazing day/night.